At my sister's wedding, a security guard stopped me at the steps. He held up 2 photos, my children's faces each stamped in black ink, "Do not admit." Behind him, guests laughed, champagne glasses, clinking camera flashes, catching the perfect light. My father looked away. My stepmother smiled like it was logistics, not cruelty. My 6-year-old asked Mom, "Did we do something bad?" I didn't answer. I handed over the gift envelope and turned around. They thought they'd erased me from their perfect day. They didn't know by sunset their celebration would turn into a reckoning, and I wouldn't have to say a single word. I teach yoga for a living, morning classes at the studio, private sessions in the afternoons, and online ones after my kids go to bed. It's quiet work, calm work, the kind of life where you can hear your own thoughts. I used to think that was peace. Now I know it was just silence I hadn't questioned yet. My name is Rachel. I'm 34, married to Ethan, and we live in a small townhouse where towels never stay on their hooks, and the shoe basket never has the pair you need. We have 2 kids, Noah 6, who carries a dinosaur flashlight everywhere, and Ella 3, who calls strawberries red moons. Our home isn't perfect, but it's ours. The kind of messy warmth that smells like coffee crayons and laundry detergent. Then there's my family, the one that never felt like mine. My father David remarried when I was 12. He used to tell me family is everything, which usually meant don't make things difficult. My stepmother Kira runs our family like a luxury brand. White tablecloth dinners, perfect lighting, and a tone of voice that sounds kind until you listen to the words. And my half-sister Lila, 26, an influencer who calls herself a lifestyle muse. Everything she touches is beige, curated, and filtered. Growing up, Kira called me the strong one. It sounded like praise. It wasn't. It was permission to use me. I carried boxes, fixed chaos, cleaned up messes that weren't mine. When Kira wanted calm, she sent me to soothe my crying baby sister. When Lila wanted attention, she got it. When Dad wanted peace, I gave it to him by swallowing mine. So when Kira called this past May and said, "We need to talk about the wedding," I already knew what that meant. I was at the studio wiping down mats, the air still warm from class. She started with her usual melody, how everything was coming together beautifully. Then her tone shifted soft and heavy, like a hand pressing on my shoulder. "Lila's venue needs a deposit," she said. They mentioned Friday. I didn't respond right away. I'd learned silence could buy me time. "You always step up." "Rachel," she added. The same line she'd used since I was 15. And just like that, I felt the old reflex rise, the urge to help, to fix, to keep things smooth. Dinner that night was a performance as always. Kira's table glittered under soft light. Lila arrived half an hour late, glowing like a commercial. Her fiancé Parker followed behind, her polished rich, the kind of man who calls waiters buddy. Kira had a binder, of course. She opened it like scripture revealing glossy pages of venues, flower arrangements, catering menus, all with prices printed neatly beside them. $30,000 in total. She said it casually, like the weather. "Just the deposit, sweetheart," she told me. "You can handle that, right?" My husband Ethan looked at me across the table. He didn't say no, but his eyes did. My father raised his glass and said, "Family comes through for family." Lila smiled and added, "It's for love, Rachel." That word love always seemed to mean open your wallet. On the drive home, Ethan was quiet. "You don't have to keep fixing them," he said finally. "I know," I whispered, but I didn't stop. The next morning, I transferred the deposit, half our savings. I told myself it was temporary, that it would come back, that doing right would keep the peace. I didn't know then that peace in our family only existed when I was paying for it. The weeks after that dinner blurred into a slow, familiar pattern, texts from Kira, calls from Lila, and my own guilt disguised as responsibility. Every message had the same rhythm. "We just need one more thing. You're the only one we can count on. The vendor deal ends tonight." At first I said no. Then I said maybe. Then I said fine. Each payment chipped away at something invisible. Not just the balance in our savings account, but a sense of fairness I didn't realize I still believed in. Ethan watched me transfer money like someone watching a slow accident they couldn't stop. "You're letting them rewrite what family means," he said one night. They're my family, I replied. If I don't help, who will? He looked at me quietly. Maybe that's the point. The requests grew. The florist wanted an early retainer. The DJ had a special rate. The videographer needed a deposit before the next couple booked them. Every time I hesitated, Kira would say, "You always step up," and that sentence, those 4 words, felt like a leash snapping around my neck. At yoga, I told my students to breathe, to let go of tension, to stay grounded. But I was the one floating away. The day I realized how far I'd gone was when Kira texted, "No kids at the wedding. Bride's vision is elevated." I stared at the screen for a full minute. My phone buzzed again, another message. "We'll figure something out for you." "We'll figure something out" was code for "you'll bend again." That night over dinner, Noah asked if he could wear his dinosaur tie to Aunt Lila's wedding. He said it with pride, like he'd been invited to something big. Of course I told him, forcing a smile. Ethan watched me. He didn't say a word. Days passed. More invoices arrived. More reminders. I started keeping a list on my phone. Venue deposit $12 or $800, catering $8, $750, florist $2, $200, string duo $1, $600, DJ $1, $500, content team $2, $500, 30 grand. Neat, complete. Quiet theft dressed as gratitude. Then came the rehearsal dinner. Kira texted that morning, adults only. Less chaos. Ethan offered to stay home with the kids, but I told him I'd be fine. I wasn't. The moment I walked in, the air changed. Everyone was smiling too much. Lila was glowing in white. My father was playing the proud parent. Kira was in full hostess mode, hugging guests she barely liked. I stood in the corner holding a glass of water like it was armor. Lila came up to me, mid-toast, her hand brushing my arm. "Rach, just so you know, the kids might not be comfortable at the venue. There's so much glass and, well, it's kind of high-end." "High-end," I repeated. She blinked. "Yeah, it's not really kid-proof." Something inside me went cold. "So you're saying my children don't belong?" "Oh, don't make it dramatic," she said, smiling for the guests nearby. "It's just the vibe." The vibe. That word, her whole life. I left early. No scene, no tears. Just the long drive home with the car radio off. Ethan was waiting at the table when I walked in. "What happened?" I shook my head. "They think our kids ruin the vibe." He exhaled slow. "Then maybe it's time we ruin theirs." I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about how peace used to mean obedience, how family had become a tax I kept paying. The next morning, I didn't send the last payment. Kira called within hours. "Sweetheart, we need to lock in the content team today." "I'll think about it," I said. "You know how stressful weddings are, then maybe you should have planned better," I replied before hanging up. It was the first time I'd ever hung up on her. The silence afterward felt like oxygen. I didn't know it yet, but that small act, refusing to send $1 more, was the first crack in their perfect picture. And cracks have a way of spreading. The silence didn't last. By the next morning, my voicemail was full. One from Kira, fake tears, trembling voice. One from Dad lecturing about doing the right thing. And one from Lila, half crying, half offended that I would make this harder than it needs to be. I ignored them all. That night, Ethan and I sat at the kitchen table, the kids asleep upstairs. The glow from the fridge light fell across our unpaid bills, my yoga class rosters, and the envelope marked wedding expenses. "I can't keep funding people who wouldn't even let our children in the room," I said. Ethan leaned back. "Then stop trying to explain it. Just document everything. Make it real." So I did, line by line, each transfer, each receipt. I wasn't being petty. I was keeping proof. For years, Kira's power came from gaslighting. She'd rewrite every story until you doubted your own memory. But numbers don't lie. A few days later, my phone lit up with a message from Lila Final payment, due tomorrow. "Thank you, sis." I stared at the text, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then I typed back, "I've already paid more than anyone else. That's my final contribution." The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, came back. Then, "Don't make this ugly, Rachel. We're family." Family. That word again, always used as a weapon. I put my phone down. Ethan smiled slightly. "That's the sound of a boundary, but boundaries don't stay quiet in my family." 2 days later, Kira showed up at my studio. She looked flawless, cream blazer hair, pinned tight smile, sharpened like glass. My students had just left. The room still smelled faintly of lavender spray and sweat. Rachel, she began softly like she was comforting a patient. We're all under pressure. Lila's falling apart. Your father's heart can't handle the stress. Why are you doing this to us, to you, I said. I paid for half your daughter's wedding. Her lips twitched. You're overreacting. It's just money. It's never just money, it's respect. For a moment, her mask slipped. Then she leaned closer, voice sugar sweet again. You'll regret turning your back on family. I held her gaze. No, I regret waiting this long. She left without another word. The door clicked shut, and I stood there shaking not from fear, but from release. That evening, I drafted an email to Kira, David, Lila, and Parker. Subject: wedding contributions. Breakdown and balance. I listed every expense, every date, every transfer. Then at the bottom, I wrote, as of today, total paid $29,350. You have denied entry to my children at the event I financed. I expect repayment in full. 12 months, first installment due next month. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. I read it twice before hitting send. Ethan put his hand on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded. For the first time, yes. The next morning, my father texted, let's talk privately, sweetheart. Lila posted a story, her wedding countdown, smiling under fairy lights. They still thought I'd stay quiet. They didn't realize that silence when chosen can be the loudest sound in the room. The wedding day arrived like a storm pretending to be sunshine. The morning light streamed through our kitchen window, cutting across the cereal bowls and half-packed bags. Noah wore his little dinosaur tie, proud and wrinkled. Ella twirled in her blue dress, her hair full of uneven curls because she'd insisted on doing it herself. I watched them and thought maybe they'll remember the drive, not the people waiting for us there. Ethan adjusted his collar. You don't have to go, he said quietly. I do, I told him. Just not for them. The venue was 30 minutes away, a restored barn turned into a luxury wedding site, all white walls and fairy lights and curated fields of grass. We drove in silence. The sky was perfect, the kind that photographers call cinematic. I remember thinking how cruel it was that beauty could hide so much ugliness. When we reached the top of the gravel path, the security guard stepped forward. His suit was too formal, his smile too polite. Afternoon, he said. Can I have your name, Rachel? I hesitated. And these are my children, Noah and Ella. He looked down at his clipboard, then pulled out a clear plastic sleeve. Inside were 2 color photos, Noah's school portrait, Ella with her pigtails. Across each face, bold letters read, do not admit. I felt the world tilt. Where did you get those? My voice sounded foreign, too calm. He glanced toward the entrance. Bride's request. No minors inside. Liability policy. There's no policy. I said, that's my son and daughter. He shifted uneasily. Ma'am, I don't make the rules. Behind him, I saw Kira step out of the doorway, every inch composed. Rachel, she said, like we were discussing the weather. It's not personal, it's just for the aesthetic. Candles, glassware, you understand. My father was a shadow behind her, looking anywhere but at me. And from just inside the barn, I caught a glimpse of Lila in white, perfect trembling, peeking like she was scared to smudge her own illusion. Noah tugged my hand. Mom, did we do something bad I couldn't answer? Because anything I said would have cracked my voice wide open. Maya's no, Ethan's hand brushed mine. I felt his pulse steady and angry. I handed Kira the envelope we'd prepared. Congratulations, I said. My tone was even quiet surgical. Then I turned. The gravel crunched under our shoes. The wind shifted. Behind us, laughter resumed, nervous, brittle. In the car, Noah asked if we were still going to the party. Ella hummed a song she made up about frogs. I just drove. The farther we got from that barn, the easier it was to breathe. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but instinct made me swipe. Rachel, a deep voice said. This is Adam, Parker's father. I pulled over, glanced at Ethan. Yes, I just saw the list, Adam said. The one with your children's photos. My throat tightened. I didn't send it. I know. And I'm calling to tell you the wedding is off. My family won't be part of this circus. Silence. Then he added, his tone colder. They're on their way to your house to beg. Don't open the door." He hung up before I could speak. 2 hours later, the knocking started. Sharp, desperate. "Rachel." It was Lila's voice, high-pitched, breaking. "Please, let's talk." Behind her, I could hear Kira's controlled tone, the kind she used when she wanted the world to think she was still in charge. "Be reasonable, Rachel. This can be fixed." My father's voice came last small, tired. "Sweetheart, open up." Ethan met my eyes across the room. I didn't move. The knocks grew louder, then quieter, then stopped. Instead, the phone started buzzing, calls, voicemails, texts. I flipped mine face down on the counter. We made grilled cheese sandwiches. Noah dipped his in ketchup. Ella called hers cheese circles. The world felt small, again safe. At 6:14, Kira left a voicemail that began like an apology and ended like a threat. "You embarrassed us," she hissed. "You owe us a conversation. You owe us." At 7:03, Adam called again. "I've canceled every vendor my side paid for," he said. "I won't bankroll cruelty. You'll get partial refunds within 48 hours. Send me your totals." I opened my laptop. The cursor blinked on a blank email waiting. I typed out the numbers, each one like a heartbeat returning to me. Venue $12, $800. Catering $8, $750, florist $2, $200, strings $1, $600, DJ $1 $500, content team $2 $500, total $29 $350. Then I wrote the truth. "You denied entry to the event I financed by posting my children's faces under Do Not Admit. I expect repayment in full, 12 months. First payment due next month. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure." I sent it to all of them, Dad, Kira, Lila, Parker, and CC'd Adam. Responses flooded in within minutes. Kira, "How dare you threaten your family? Dad, we can talk privately, sweetheart." Lila, 12 months, LOL. "We're not a bank." Parker, "Give me time to figure things out." Ethan read them with me. "Clear," he said softly. "Good." The next evening, my father showed up in person. He didn't knock long. When I opened the door, he looked smaller than I remembered. "This got out of hand," he said. "You could have handled it quietly." "They printed my kids' faces, Dad," I said. "That's not a mistake. That's a message." He rubbed his temples, sighing. "You could have stayed. For your sister." "You mean for the performance?" I said. "Peace without respect isn't peace, it's silence." He blinked, confused by how calm I sounded. "I don't recognize you," he murmured. "I know," I said. "For once, I recognize myself." He left without slamming the door. That, I decided, was progress. The following morning, Kira posted a long Facebook caption about protecting your joy from jealous people. My cousin sent me a screenshot. I didn't reply. At noon, Adam's email came through, refund summary attached. He'd clawed back $6 and $200 and wired it to me. The note read, "Applied to your totals. Parker will cover the rest. If he doesn't, I will. I won't be associated with people who blacklist toddlers." For the first time in weeks, I laughed. A real laugh. Days turned into weeks. Lila's tone shifted from rage to guilt to bargaining. "Let's talk like adults," she texted. 10 minutes later, wow, ignoring me, "Power trip much." Then a photo of her red eyes captioned, "This is what you did." I didn't respond. Instead, I kept teaching. I told my students to breathe into the discomfort, to find strength in stillness. What I didn't tell them was that I was finally learning to do it too. Then one afternoon, Lila showed up at my studio door, sunglasses, bun, trembling hands. She took them off, eyes swollen. "You made a scene," she said. "You made a list," I replied. "It wasn't personal. It was a picture of my son," I said. "You let it exist." She exhaled, voice cracking. "Mom says you've always hated me." "I've always paid for you," I said. "There's a difference." She looked down. "So what now?" I folded my arms. "We say hello at birthdays. We don't exchange money. We don't use guilt as love." Lila nodded slowly, like a student hearing a lesson too late. "Parker and I got married at the courthouse yesterday," she said. "You weren't invited." "Good," I said. She blinked, caught off guard by how little that hurt me. "They'll keep paying," she said. "Good," I repeated, because this time good wasn't surrender. It was freedom. By autumn, the payments came on schedule, small digital echoes of accountability. Each month, a quiet ping in my inbox, transfer received. The memo lines almost made me smile. For peace, for closure, for lesson learned. By the 9th month, the final deposit cleared. Adam sent one last email, applied remaining vendor credit. Your balance is 0. You did right by your family. That matters. I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I opened my old note labeled Lila Wedding and typed one last line, balance $0. I didn't delete it. Some records deserve to stay. That night, my father invited us for a barbecue. I almost said no, but Ethan looked at me and I nodded. The backyard smelled like charcoal and rain. Dad flipped burgers. He looked older, quieter. He asked Noah about school, asked Ella what her favorite color was. Finally, he turned to me. You're different, he said. I'm better, I replied. He nodded as if that was a door he might finally walk through. On the drive home, the sky turned soft and orange. Ethan reached across the console, squeezed my hand. You did it, he said. I didn't fix them, I said. I fixed me. At home, Noah chased Ella through the hallway. Towels fell from their hooks. Shoes scattered everywhere. Ordinary chaos, the kind that's ours alone. Peace. This time didn't feel like silence. It felt earned. Some people still say I overreacted, that it was just a wedding, but those people have never seen their children's faces printed under the words, "Do not admit." I didn't slam doors. I didn't shout. I just stopped standing where I was told to stand. That was enough. Being the good daughter used to mean staying quiet no matter the cost. Now it means protecting my kids, my peace, and the home we built. If you've ever had to draw that line, if you've ever walked away instead of bowing down, share your story. You're not alone.